And then there's the stick. China's stick is the arrest, for instance, now in China, of Yang Hengwen, a thriller writer. He's sure got some thrillers to write now, and a democracy activist who China claims was spying. Now, his friends in Australia say that's rubbish. He's been punished for being a critic of China and punished to intimidate other Chinese expats here, some of whom have also been arrested in China. And it's not just ethnic Chinese critics here who should be feeling worried. A New Zealand professor of political science, Anne-Marie Brady, claims that China's been harassing her for exposing its campaign to spread its power and influence overseas. She said Chinese officials asked the universities to stop her research, and her house and her office were burgled, both of them, with the thieves stealing only equipment and a memory stick that she used in her work on China.
There is a cost, a political cost, a personal cost on me and my family, but this is really important, very, very important. It's about the integrity of our political system, and so I'm willing to stand up and speak out about these issues.
Now, joining me to discuss this and some Canberra politics too, those polls for instance, are Labor MP Michael Danby and legal aid lawyer Karina Alcatel, the Federal Vice President of the Liberal Party. Michael, that arrest of that author Yang, how worried should we be?
Well, it's meant to send a chilling effect. The government in Beijing wants to send a chilling effect over the 1 million plus Chinese ethnic Australians, and we have to stand up for our ethnic Chinese co-Australians, and they must be defended. I hope Christopher Pyne hasn't been too soft in saying that this is going to be dealt with under Chinese law. I don't have much support for Chinese law. 96% plus of all cases in China, people are found guilty.
I thought it was closer to 99%.
Well, it might be closer, Andrew. You've probably got better statistics than I have. But thank heavens we did, and indeed that's one of the reasons we didn't pass the proposed extradition treaty with China. It's bad enough people going over there, but what's the next step is people who are critics of China, you or me, if we were to be invited to speak at a conference in Beijing, could we be pulled off a plane? There was a Canadian...
Possibly. Don't forget there was another Chinese-Australian academic, we should actually call him Australian, who was arrested about a year ago. Now, how bizarre is it, given the arrest of Australians, the arrest of a couple of Canadians in reprisal for Huawei's founder's daughter being arrested for breaking American law, how dangerous is it, or how bizarre is it for cinemas in Sydney to now be promoting Communist China?
Look, it's quite startling, really, and I think it's a reminder that we should really take the democracy that we have and the freedoms that we enjoy no longer for granted. And thank you, Andrew, for shining a light on this particular issue. Particularly coming off the back of Australia Day, it's something that really should be at the forefront of people's minds, that we can't take our freedoms for granted. But in terms of the advertisement, it really is up to the industry-regulated body, the Advertising Standards Bureau, to ensure that advertisements like that, and that was an ad screened prior to a children's movie.
Get them while they're young, Karina.
Yes, well...
But the kids wouldn't understand it, Andrew, would they?
No, I know, but
most Australians would laugh at it, surely.
How shameless do you have to be promoting an intolerant, dictatorial regime that's locking our citizens up, and you just think, oh, no, this is great. Just
nonetheless, we can do good business with them. We had $169 billion of Chinese direct investment in Australia, the Foreign Investment Review Board says, over the last 5 years. We can trade, we can sell them iron ore and coal, but we shouldn't...
politics.
Exactly. We don't have to compromise on our democratic ethos.
I think it's rather frightening. Karina? Yeah?
Just come back to the ad in particular. The Advertising Standards Bureau, industry-regulated body, when it comes to advertisements directed at children, they have to look at prevailing community standards. What is that? What are prevailing community standards? Certainly as a mother of 3 young children, I would not be happy with my children being indoctrinated in socialism.
Look, that's spoken as a real lawyer. I think this is a very interesting point you make, even though I have to say I'm against political censorship of ads for that reason, but the law is there, and no doubt a Pauline Hanson ad would get subjected to that sort of scrutiny. Why not a Communist China one? Hey, listen, to Canberra politics, Karina, we've had the latest news poll showing today a 2% improvement in the government's vote after preferences, so that it now trails Labor by only, if only is the word, 47% to 53%. Are you happy?
Oh, absolutely. I think in this new year, as people start to turn their mind towards a federal election, that people will start to really consider the government's track record. And I have no doubt that we'll see more and more improvement in the news polls or other polls that come forward coming up to the election. The reality is
They're still 6 points behind. That's a hiding.
Yeah, people were disappointed with leadership internal battles last year. There's no one who would say otherwise, but as we saw during the leadership
I'd say good that Turnbull's gone, but the way his supporters fought back, and the way that some Liberal women were making fake accusations without substance that they could demonstrate of bullying the party was terribly damaging to the party. I think it's the manner it was handled. But Michael, I did see an article today, and it may be the first of many because narratives changed during the skip board of the same old, saying, is Bill Shorten going to be the next Kim Beazley? Kim Beazley being the Labor leader who was ahead in the polls, goes to the polls, John Howard goes whack and is gone.
Well, the famous election that Kim Beazley actually got a majority of the popular vote, but lost by seats. I don't think Bill Shorten's in danger of that. I think there are so many Liberal marginal seats that are at risk. I mean, they've even been talking about Higgins here in Victoria. But to be fair about the polls, they've gone from shocking to losing as far as the Liberals are concerned. One thing that I agree with you on, Labor has to be very careful about showing no hubris. This isn't over until the election takes place, and any political party who sort of relaxes and thinks that it's already won or in the bag are mugs, and I know Bill Shorten isn't like that, and I know he's absolutely determined to keep his own crew calm and continuing to argue politics.
Well, Karina, you say the public's focusing more on economics. The Prime Minister today did his best to make sure they keep doing that. He made what was billed as a big economic speech with a big announcement. Here's the video that he actually tweeted out this morning before the actual speech.
We're going to be making some major announcements here in Brisbane, and they are that we will create 1.25 million jobs over the next 5 years. That's my pledge. That's our pledge. When we were first elected to government, we said we'd create 1 million jobs in 5 years, and we did exactly that. We said we'd stop the boats, and we did exactly that. When we make commitments, we keep them. We said we're going to bring the budget back into surplus, and we will at the next budget.
Now, Morrison also announced a $750 million tax package for small business, so an extension of their instant asset write-offs. Will this cut through?
Oh, absolutely. I think we are starting to see cut through in terms of the news poll. And Bill Shorten should be afraid. He's still trailing when it comes to preferred Prime Minister. People haven't tuned in because an election hasn't been at the forefront of their minds. As we come closer to the election, they'll be looking at the government's track record. Did they honour their commitments? And as the Prime Minister has said, when it comes to jobs growth and the commitment to the creation of 1 million jobs in 5 years, that's was exceeded.
That's
that is
a promise.
incredible.
I bet you Labor will match that too, because if you keep pumping in nearly 250,000 immigrants a year, and many of them get the jobs, yes, you're going to create lots of jobs. Do Australians end up feeling better off individually? I'm not so sure.
Well, if they do what the state government did, they show that you get a reward for building infrastructure. So it's okay to have the migration, but it's building a prosperous Australia. Australia is in a better position than many other Western countries, Andrew, under this government and under a Labor government. It'll be the same powering through immigration. I'm a strong supporter of immigration.
No OECD country has got anything like the immigration, the population increase that Australia does.
Yes,
we're out on our own.
Our people are chosen by us from 18 to 42, healthy, educated, speak English, and have a commitment to this country. I signed lots of them in.
I don't think this will be quite the cut-through that the government wants. People want money in their pockets, not a job for some people that...
Remember also that there are 1 million people that they say they put into employment over the last 5 years. 55% of them are part-time. So people would prefer full-time jobs.
No, 55% were not part-time.
55% were full-time.
Yeah. OK, just finally before we go, Channel 10's Kerry-Anne Kenley, is she a racist for talking about Aboriginal women being raped?
You're not a racist for discussing an issue. That's as simple as that.
What do you think, Michael? We've had Yumi Steins, as we saw at the top of the show, did call Kenley racist, saying this today on radio about her critics.
Hey, Kyle, do you know what I love?
One.
White people telling me about racism.
Is that fair enough, saying whites shouldn't be talking to a woman with Asian ancestry about racism?
No, it's not. I'm Jewish and I'm quite happy to have discussions about all kinds of issues to do with our population mix, our adherence to democratic values in Australia. And I think it's just... I thought it was a generational conflict between Kerry-Anne Kenley and that young woman. I don't think people who are critics, who are discussing things on programs, when you disagree with someone over an issue, should be called racist. I think it's just cheap. You can say you're wrong, that you shouldn't be focusing just on rape statistics amongst Aboriginal women. There are other things too, but discuss the issues. Don't sort of go for the slogan.
Oh, I totally agree. Michael Danby, Karina Alcatel, thank you so much to you both. More